The thing about rebuilding your life in a tiny Portuguese fishing village is that everyone assumes you're here because of a breakup. They see a 27-year-old woman renting a small white house with blue shutters by the ocean, walking alone on the beach at weird hours, crying into a coffee some mornings and laughing to herself others, and they think, "Ah, poor girl, some man broke her heart." And they're not wrong. They just don't know I lost two men in one day, my fiancé and my father. And they lost each other too, in a way. Or maybe they finally found each other. Depends how poetic you feel about trauma. Anyway, my name is Priscilla. I'm 27. I used to work at a bank in Omaha, Nebraska, and a year ago I was the kind of girl who thought the worst thing that could happen at her wedding was the florist messing up the bouquet. I had no idea the real bouquet toss would be my entire sense of reality being flung into a ceiling fan. Now I wake up to the sound of waves, not traffic, and my biggest decision most days is whether to cry in the bed or on the beach. Sometimes I mix it up and cry in both places just to keep things fresh. But you're not here for my Portuguese breakdown routine. You want to know how my wedding got detonated an hour before the ceremony because my fiancé fell in love with my father. So, let's rewind. Before Portugal, before the mansion, before the kiss, I still see when I close my eyes. My life was very structured. I worked at a bank. You know the type. Beige walls, fake plants that collect dust, motivational posters that nobody believes in. I processed loans, talked to people about interest rates, and wore blazers in colors with names like stone, sand, and muted oatmeal. I was that girl. The girl who color codes her planner, who pays bills on time, who has a savings account named Future Wedding. I was naive, romantic, and weirdly proud of knowing the exact day my credit score went up by 8 points. I believed in steady careers, joint accounts, and healthy communication because all the podcasts said so. And then there was Taylor. Taylor was the dream, the cliché, the soft-spoken, helpful, handsome 30-year-old man who somehow managed to be both emotionally available and decent at assembling IKEA furniture. We met at a barbecue my friends hosted. My friend invited a coworker, her coworker brought her cousin, and that cousin brought Taylor because apparently my life is a family tree chart. He was the guy you introduce to your parents and they go, "Finally." Dark hair, warm brown eyes, a smile that made you feel like you'd just done something brilliant even if all you did was pass him the ketchup. He listened when you spoke. He remembered details. He brought me coffee exactly how I liked it by the second date. And he adored my dad. That's the part I used to say proudly. My dad is one of those people everyone likes. The funny guy, the storyteller, the career man. He's the one who makes the waiter laugh, who turns every minor inconvenience into a joke, who gives you pep talks in the kitchen at midnight when you cry over some stupid boy. Growing up, he was my hero. We were close in that easy, natural way. Weekend pancakes, bad dad jokes in the car, cheering at school plays like I'd won an Oscar for Treehouse 2. On the outside, my parents were the perfect couple. 30 years together, no big fights in public, inside jokes, shared routines. The kind of marriage you point at and say, that's what I want. Except once, when I was a teenager, I overheard my mom on the phone with her friend. They were in the kitchen. I was supposed to be studying, but the walls in our house echo feelings, not just sound. All I caught was Mom saying in this tired, flat voice, "We haven't been together for 2 years now." That pause. That word she didn't want to say. I froze in the hallway, staring at the family photo on the wall. The three of us smiling, the frame slightly crooked. She laughed it off a second later, like it wasn't a big deal. "We're fine. We're just busy. You know how it is." I filed it in the back of my mind under things we don't talk about. Life went on. Pancakes, jokes, family trips, my dad working late, my mom being supportive and tireless. If you'd told me back then my dad wasn't sleeping with my mom because he was in love with my future fiancé, I would have laughed in your face. Turns out the universe was just buffering. When Taylor came into my life, everything clicked into place like a Pinterest board coming alive. We started dating. It was easy, soft, safe. He was that turbo-supportive boyfriend. Brought me lunch to the bank, listened to my rants about clients, remembered my coworkers' names, bought my mom her favorite chocolates, and my dad a weird craft beer because he likes trying new things. My dad loved him. From the moment they shook hands at that first family dinner, something lit up between them. "I like this one," Dad said in the kitchen when Taylor went to use the bathroom. "He's got a good head on his shoulders, not like that guy with the motorcycle." "That was one date and I was 19, I reminded him. He waved it off. "Still counts." Over time, Dad and Taylor became inseparable whenever we visited my parents. They watched games together. They had their own jokes. They went to the hardware store and came back with stories like they'd survived a war. They cooked together, for God's sake. I'd walk into the kitchen and see them chopping vegetables side by side like something from a wholesome commercial. They were like father and son. I used to brag about that. I'd tell my friends, "You're so lucky if your boyfriend and your dad get along, honestly. Mine are best friends. It's adorable." Looking back, the word I'm looking for is not adorable. It's foreshadowing. But at the time, I thought it meant everything was perfect. About a year before the wedding, we took a family trip to Florida. Classic cliché. Beach, sunscreen, bad seafood, my mom complaining about humidity, my dad pretending to be a tour guide when he had absolutely no idea where we were going. We rented a 2-bedroom Airbnb, one room for my parents, one for me and Taylor. There was a little balcony, a sad couch, and a bottle of tequila someone had left in the cabinet. Very spring break, but with back pain. One night, my mom was tired and went to bed early. I had a headache and stretched out on the bed with my phone, and Taylor and Dad decided to have a drink on the balcony. It sounded harmless. I remember lying there, drifting in and out of sleep, hearing their laughter through the sliding door. Every once in a while I'd catch a phrase, something about work, about life, about relationships, serious talk, then laughter, then quiet again. At one point, I woke up fully. Not because of a sound, but because of this feeling. The air in the room felt strange, heavy, charged. I heard Dad say softly, voice slurred just enough, "I've never met anyone who understands me like you do, kiddo." Then silence. Then the faint scrape of chair legs, a long exhale. My heart started to beat faster for no reason I could explain. I told myself I was being silly, that they were just drunk and having a deep conversation like men do once in a decade. I got up, opened the sliding door a few inches, and peeked out. They were sitting close, too close, knees nearly touching. Taylor's face was turned toward Dad's, eyes bright and something else. There was this thick, electric tension between them, like the air between two magnets about to snap together. Nobody was kissing, nobody was touching, but every cell in my body went, "Something is wrong, something is off, something is not what you think it is." I watched for maybe 3 seconds, then I stepped back, closed the door quietly, and did what every good naive girl does when faced with something uncomfortable. I rationalized it. They're drunk. They're bonding. It's sweet. You're overreacting, Cece. I climbed back into bed, turned my back to the balcony, and eventually fell asleep to the murmur of their voices and the soft clink of glasses. I did not know, at that point, that this was the night everything started. Or maybe it had started long before. Maybe this was just the first moment my brain tried to warn me, and I hit snooze. Taylor and I had been together for 3 years when he proposed. It was in the most Priscilla way possible. In my kitchen, with takeout containers on the counter and a vase of grocery store flowers shoved between the soy sauce and plastic forks. He dropped to one knee between the fridge and the trash can and opened a ring box like it was the most natural place in the world. "I want to spend my life with you, Cece," he said, eyes a little watery. "You're my home." I cried, obviously. Said yes, called my mom. She screamed so loud I had to put the phone on speaker and hold it away from my face. Dad got on the line. "Well, I guess I have to start calling you son-in-law now," he joked. Poor guy. When we visited that weekend, Dad hugged Taylor longer than he hugged me. I remember that now. Back then I just thought, wow, they really love each other. And that was a good thing, right? A future where my husband and my dad hung out and grilled steaks and fixed stuff around the house together? Perfect. Or, cinematic build-up to disaster. It's all about perspective. I won't bore you with every detail of wedding planning, but trust me, I had spreadsheets. Dress fitting appointments, venue visits, catering tastings, all meticulously tracked in a color-coded document. My bank brain was in heaven. We picked a gorgeous estate just outside Omaha, the kind of place where the grass is offensively green and the driveway is so long you feel rich just walking up it. Big white mansion, columns, huge windows, a ballroom with chandeliers that looked like they were made of frozen tears, classic white wedding, string quartet, peonies, the whole Pinterest starter pack. My friends called me a bride chilla because I wasn't freaking out about chair covers or napkin folds. Why would I? I had the perfect man, the perfect venue, the perfect supportive parents. Nothing could go wrong. Except everything. The morning of the wedding, I woke up stupidly happy. Sunlight through the curtains, birds singing, that weird quiet excitement in the air that says, today is important. I was in one of the guest rooms in the mansion, surrounded by makeup bags, garment bags, and half-empty coffee cups. My mom, my sister, my best friend, the bridesmaids, and the makeup artist were all there, chatting, laughing, taking photos. I put on my white silk robe with bride embroidered on the back like I hadn't tempted fate enough already. At some point, Taylor came by the room. We weren't supposed to see each other fully dressed, but this was just the, hi, good morning, we're getting married, can you believe it, moment. He stood in the doorway in his shirt and dress pants, no jacket yet, tie untied, looking inexplicably nervous. He was pale, his hands fidgeting with the cuff of his sleeve. I laughed. Hey, aren't I supposed to be the one having a panic attack? He forced a smile. Yeah, guess I'm stealing your role. My mom cooed. Aw, look at him, he's so emotional. Everyone thought it was cute. I walked over, put my hands on his chest, felt his heart pounding too fast. Hey, I whispered. We're good. It's just us, okay? We've got this. He nodded, eyes locked on mine with this intensity that made me want to kiss him. But there were about 7 people and one very judgmental makeup artist in the room, so I settled for a quick peck and a squeeze of his hand. See you at the altar, I said. He swallowed. Yeah, see you. I watched him walk down the hallway, shoulders tight, back straight like he was going to his own execution. I told myself it was just nerves. Marriage is a big deal. People freak out, totally normal. I should have listened to the little voice in my head that whispered, something's wrong. Something's very wrong. But I had eyeliner to get right and lipstick to not smudge, and my entire personality at that point was girl having a wedding, so I drowned that voice in setting spray. An hour before the ceremony, my dress was on, white, classic, hugging at the waist, flaring out just enough to make walking mildly dangerous. My hair was in some elegant updo I'd never replicate again. Everyone was fluttering around me like I was a very fragile, very expensive installation that might cry at any moment. Somewhere in the middle of the chaos, I noticed my mom's phone light up. She stepped out into the hallway to take a call, voice hushed. A few minutes later, she came back in looking off, too bright, too composed. Her smile didn't fit her eyes. Everything okay? I asked. Of course, she chirped. Just your father being your father. Don't worry about it, sweetheart. Today is your day. Then there was a soft knock at the door. It was Taylor. My heart did a little flip. You're not supposed to see me, I joked, adjusting the top of my dress. Everyone else shuffled out to give us space, pretending not to be listening. The door closed gently behind them. He stood there, in his full suit now. Dark jacket, crisp white shirt, tie perfectly tied. He looked beautiful and terrified. Hey, I said, smile already stretching my cheeks. He didn't smile back. I can't do it, he said. The words dropped between us like a stone through glass. I blinked. Do what? His jaw clenched. He looked away, then back at me, eyes shining like he was holding back tears. I can't get married today. I need time to think. It felt like the floor shifted under me. Think about what? My voice came out too high, too small. Taylor, what are you talking about? We're literally about to start. He shook his head. I'm sorry, I can't. Not like this. Not like what? I took a step toward him, the dress rustling loudly in the quiet room. Did something happen? Did I do something? Are you scared? We can talk, we can— It's not you, he said quickly, flinching. It's because of your dad. That was not on my bingo card. I stared at him. My dad? He ran a hand through his hair, looking like he wanted to rip it out. I can't explain it right now. I'm sorry, I can't go out there and pretend everything is normal. Because of my dad? I repeated, like the sentence would make more sense if I said it again. What did he say to you? Did he tell you something? Did he threaten you? Are you two fighting? Taylor, talk to me. He backed toward the door. I'm sorry, Cece, he whispered. I'm so sorry. And then he was gone. Just like that. No dramatic storming out, no shouting. Just a man in a perfect suit walking out of the room and taking my future with him. I don't know how long I stood there. Time stopped mattering. My heart was pounding in my ears, my hands were shaking, my veil felt too tight like I was being strangled by tulle and bad decisions. Eventually my brain rebooted. It's because of your dad. What could my dad possibly have said to him? They were best friends. They did everything together. They never disagreed. Dad had been more excited about this wedding than anyone. He joked about finally having another guy in the family, about team testosterone. I felt anger rise, hot and sharp. If my dad had somehow messed this up, if he had said something to scare Taylor off, I needed to know. I opened the door. Everyone was there. My mom, my sister, my best friend, the bridesmaids. All of them froze when they saw my face. What happened? My mom asked, voice brittle. Nothing. I lied automatically. I just need to talk to Dad. Priscilla. I'm fine, Mom. My voice shook. I just need to talk to Dad. Alone. Something flickered in her eyes. Fear, maybe. Or recognition. Or guilt. She pressed her lips together and nodded. He's in his room, she said softly. Down the hall, second door on the left. I walked out, the sound of my heels on the polished floor way too loud. My reflection flashed in a decorative mirror, white dress, flawless makeup, eyes already starting to crack. This is not how this was supposed to go. I reached my dad's door. It was slightly open, and that's when I heard Taylor's voice. I can't do it, Taylor was saying. His voice was low, tight, like a wire stretched to breaking. I'm sorry, I don't want to hide it anymore. My hand froze on the door. Dad answered, voice sounding older than I'd ever heard it. It's not possible. Go there and tell her that you got scared and everything is okay. No one even suspects us now. My stomach dropped straight to the floor. Us. My first thought was still the obvious one. He cheated on me. That had to be it. He'd met someone else. Some other woman. And my dad, who loved him, who trusted him, knew about it and still wanted him to marry me? To keep up appearances? To protect my feelings? Our reputation? How cruel. How unbelievably cruel. I felt my chest burn with a mix of humiliation and rage. My easy, romantic, safe little world started cracking like glass. I can't lie, Taylor said. I want to be with the one I love. I closed my eyes. Some other woman. He loves some other woman. Of course. There's always another woman. This is the part in the story where I tell everyone how I found out he cheated, and we all agree men are trash and eat ice cream. I pushed the door open another inch. Taylor was facing my dad, standing too close. His tie was loose, his eyes glassy with tears. He looked wrecked. Dad was sitting on the edge of the bed, elbows on his knees, hands clasped, staring at the floor. I am leaving, Taylor said suddenly, voice shaking. If you want, come with me. My heart stopped. My brain tried to plug that sentence into the narrative I'd created. Some mystery woman, some dirty secret, but the math wasn't mathing. Dad lifted his head. His face was lined, his jaw clenched, eyes raw. I can't go now, he said hoarsely. They need me here. Please, Tay. The nickname. Tay. I'd never heard him call Taylor that. It sounded intimate, soft, like something that had been said in the dark, not under hotel lighting. Taylor took a step toward the door, and that's when my dad reached out, grabbed his arm, and pulled him back, and kissed him, full on the mouth. Not a quick, confused, drunk peck. Not some weird European cheek thing. A real kiss. Desperate. Familiar. I made a sound I'd never heard myself make before. A raw, strangled noise that ripped out of my chest like something being torn. They broke apart and turned toward the door at the same time. Our eyes met. Time stopped. Taylor's face went white. My dad's mouth opened and closed like he was searching for air. "Cece," Dad said, hands lifting helplessly. "You got us wrong?" I didn't hear the rest. The room spun, my vision tunneled, and the last thing I remember is the ceiling light blooming above me like a white sun before everything went black. When I woke up, I wasn't sure if I was alive or stuck in some cruel, low-budget nightmare. I was in a different room, smaller, bright. The curtains were half drawn, letting in a slice of afternoon light. My dress was still on, the veil gone, one shoe missing. There was a cold compress on my forehead. Voices murmured nearby. Her blood pressure dropped. "She needs rest." A man in a white coat leaned over me. Hotel doctor, I guessed. He smiled gently. "Priscilla, can you hear me?" I swallowed. "Yeah." My mom's face swam into view behind him. Her eyes were red, but her makeup was intact. She looked fragile, like a statue about to crack. "Baby," she whispered, grabbing my hand. "You scared us. You fainted." The doctor said something about stress, emotional shock, brides forgetting to eat. I nodded mechanically. My brain was already racing ahead. Taylor, Dad, the kiss. I tried to sit up too quickly and the room tilted again. "Where are they?" I croaked. My mom stiffened. "Where is who, sweetheart?" "Dad, Taylor." My voice shook. "Where are they?" She hesitated just long enough to confirm every fear I had. "Taylor left," she said finally, her voice carefully even. He asked to postpone the wedding. I'm so sorry, baby. I know how much this meant to you. Your father is in the hall. He wanted to come in, but I told him to wait while the doctor checks on you." She thought I had fainted because my fiancé dumped me an hour before the ceremony, which, to be fair, is a valid reason to black out, but that wasn't why. Not exactly. "That's not..." My throat closed, words tangling. "Mom, did he tell you why?" She looked down at our joined hands. "He said he needs time to think. Men get scared sometimes." Her laugh was brittle and humorless. "We've all seen the movies." I stared at her, at the tiny tremble in her lower lip, at the way her eyes slid away from mine when she lied, because she knew something was off. Maybe not what I'd seen, not entirely. But she knew she was standing on a fault line and pretending she didn't feel the ground move. "You should rest," the doctor said. "No big decisions today. Just breathe. Drink water. Eat something if you can." He left. The room felt too quiet without his professional calm. "Do you want to see your dad?" my mom asked softly. "He's very worried." I almost said no. I almost asked her, point blank, if she'd ever wondered why her husband hadn't touched her for 2 years. If she'd ever noticed the way he lit up when Taylor came over. If she'd ever caught a strange look she couldn't explain. But she was already cracking, and I didn't have the strength to shatter her. "Yes," I said instead. My voice sounded like someone else's. "I want to talk to him, alone." She nodded and squeezed my hand. "I'll send him in." Dad walked in a minute later, closing the door behind him with exaggerated care. He looked wrecked. His tie was askew, his hair messed up, his eyes bloodshot. But his expression was the same one he wore when a pipe burst in the kitchen when I was 10. Calm, controlled, reassuring. The "we'll fix this" face. "Hey, baby," he said softly, stopping a few feet from the bed. "You gave us quite a scare." I stared at him for a moment, the word baby scraping across my skin like sandpaper. "Don't," I said. He blinked. "Don't what?" "Don't talk to me like nothing happened." A muscle in his jaw twitched. "I know you're upset. he started carefully. Taylor told you he wants to postpone the— I saw you, I cut in. Silence. He froze mid-step. For a heartbeat, his face emptied completely, like someone had erased all expression. I don't know what you think you saw, he began. I laughed. It came out sharp and ugly. Dad, I'm not stupid. I heard you. I saw you. My voice cracked, but I kept going, words spilling out like I'd been holding them back for years. When did it start? His mouth opened, closed. He shook his head, taking a step closer. Cece, you're confused. You fainted. You're emotional. Taylor is confused too. We're trying to keep everything from falling apart and— When did it start? I repeated, louder this time. He flinched. I pushed myself up on my elbows, the dress crinkling under me. Was it Florida? That night on the balcony? You and Taylor with your tequila and your deep talks? Because I felt something then. I thought I was crazy, but I wasn't, was I? His eyes darted away, then back. Nothing happened in Florida, he said quickly. Too quickly. We just talked, like friends. Friends who what? I asked. Stare at each other like the rest of the world doesn't exist? Generate enough tension to power the air conditioning? His face reddened. Watch your tone. No. My voice cracked. No. You don't get to pull the dad card right now. We stared at each other, the air between us thick and sour. He tried again, softer. Baby, you got it wrong. I didn't. My hands were shaking, but I didn't look away. You kissed him. I saw it. You kissed my fiancé in a hotel room on my wedding day. I didn't get anything wrong. He closed his eyes for a long moment, like he was counting backward from 10 in a language he didn't speak. When he opened them again, he looked old. Remember that family trip to Florida? I pressed. You and Mom went to bed early. We had tequila and— I swallowed. There was something in the air. I felt it. I just didn't understand it. Was that when it started? He sank into the chair by the bed, elbows on his knees, head in his hands. I always knew, he said finally, voice barely audible. I just never wanted to say it out loud, not even to myself. My throat tightened. Knew what? He let out a shaky breath. About me, he said. About who I'm attracted to. I spent my whole life pushing it down, dating women, marrying your mom, building this whole life. He gestured vaguely, like our entire family was a piece of furniture he'd put together by accident. And it worked, he continued bitterly, for a long time. I loved your mom. I still do. She's my best friend. We built a life, we raised you, we made it work. Except you stopped sleeping with her, I said quietly. She told her friend. I heard. His shoulders slumped. I just couldn't anymore, he whispered. I thought it was stress, age, whatever excuse men use when they don't want to look too closely at themselves. And then Taylor? I prompted, even though I already knew the answer. He closed his eyes again. And then Taylor, he repeated. There it was. The first time he came over, Dad said, voice far away. I felt something I hadn't felt since I was a teenager. I thought it was just admiration, liking him, thinking he was good for you. I told myself that, over and over. He laughed, a sharp, humorless sound. And then Florida. We talked that night, really talked, about everything, about feeling trapped, about expectations. He said he always did what people expected of him. Good son, good student, good boyfriend. He swallowed. At some point, he looked at me and said, Do you ever feel like you've been playing a role so long you don't know who you are without it? And He shook his head. Something broke. I saw myself at his age, scared, silent. So I told him things I hadn't told anyone, not even your mother. And then you kissed, I said. My voice was flat now, numb rage. He nodded just once. Just a second, he said quickly. We were both drunk. It was stupid. We pulled away immediately, swore it would never happen again. We said it was a mistake, that we loved you, that this couldn't be anything. Did you believe that? I asked. He stared at the floor. I wanted to, he whispered. I felt something inside me crack cleanly down the middle. And the year after that? I asked. All those weekends, all those jokes, all those games? What was that? Trying to act normal, he said. Trying to make it go away, but feelings don't. He stopped himself, biting back whatever cliché he was about to drop. I shook my head slowly. So you were in love with him, I said. And he was in love with you, and you were both going to let him marry me. He flinched like I'd slapped him. I told him to go through with it, he admitted, voice low and raw. I told him it wasn't possible. That nobody suspected anything, that we could all just keep going like nothing happened. Nobody suspects us now, I echoed, the words tasting like ash. That's what you said. He stared at me, eyes wet. I thought, if he married you, if we all stayed in our lanes, it would pass, he said. He'd be your husband. I'd be your father. Your mother would never be hurt. You'd have the life you dreamed of. This thing would go back in the box. I laughed, a sound that scared even me. That thing is that you're gay, I said. And he's either gay or bi or something adjacent, and your brilliant solution was to build a family on top of a lie and hope it didn't collapse. He rubbed his face with both hands. When he came to my room, he said quietly, he told me he couldn't do it. He said he loved you, but he couldn't marry you while he felt this way about me. He said he wanted to stop lying, to himself, to you, to all of us. And you kissed him, I said, on my wedding day. He winced. I didn't mean for you to see, he whispered. I stared at him. That's what you're focusing on? I asked. That I saw? Not that you did it? I'm sorry, he said. The words sounded like they hurt. For everything, for lying, for letting it get this far, for hurting you, for hurting your mom. I never wanted— Don't say you never wanted to hurt us, I snapped. You had 30 years to figure out that lying hurts people. You had a year to figure out that kissing my fiancé was a bad idea. You're not stupid, Dad. You just didn't want to be uncomfortable. We sat in silence, the truth settling between us like dust. How long did you expect to keep lying to Mom? I asked quietly. Forever? He didn't answer, which was answer enough. Get out, I said. He looked up sharply. Cece, get out! Tears stood in his eyes. For a second I saw the man who taught me to ride a bike, who bandaged my scraped knees, who cried at my high school graduation. My dad. My hero. And then I remembered him calling my fiancé Tay in that soft, intimate voice. He stood slowly. I'm sorry, he said again, because that's all he had left. I love you. I turned my face away. He waited a moment, like maybe I'd change my mind, call him back, tell him I understood, that we'd figure it out. I didn't. He left. The door closed behind him with a quiet click, and the life I'd known closed with it. In the days that followed, everything blurred. The wedding was officially postponed. That was the word everyone clung to like a life raft. Guests were told there had been a family emergency, vendors were rescheduled or canceled. My dress went back into a garment bag like it hadn't witnessed a crime. I moved back into my apartment, which suddenly felt too big, too quiet, too full of framed photos I couldn't look at. My mom called every day. She wanted to talk about the wedding, about Taylor, about me giving him space. I didn't have the heart to smash her world yet, so I pretended to be just a regular jilted bride. It was almost comforting in a twisted way. Heartbroken over a boy, simple, familiar, acceptable. Taylor didn't call. For a while, I thought that hurt the most. No explanation, no apology, no grand gesture at my door. Then, one night, weeks later, my phone buzzed. His name on the screen. I stared at it, thumb hovering, then opened the message. I'm sorry, Cece. I didn't realize that I like men until I met your dad. He's all I want in my life. Forgive me, I loved you truly, but couldn't lie to you all life. I sat there for a long time, the words swimming before my eyes. I didn't reply. What was I supposed to say? Thanks for using me as a stepping stone in your journey of self-discovery. Hope you and my dad have fun unpacking 30 years of internalized everything. I blocked his number. My dad didn't text at all. He tried to call once. I let it ring. A few weeks later, I bought a one-way ticket to Portugal. It wasn't a grand cinematic decision. I was at my desk in the bank, staring at a spreadsheet, and I suddenly realized I couldn't remember the last time anything on the screen mattered to me. I'd been on autopilot. Eat, work, cry, sleep, repeat. So I opened a browser tab, typed small coastal towns near Porto, clicked on the first image that made my chest ache, white houses, blue trim, boats bobbing in the water, and thought, why not there? I had savings. Wedding money that would never be spent on a wedding. Enough to buy me a year of existing quietly somewhere else. I went home that night and wrote a letter to my dad. I kept it short. Dad, I'm leaving for a while. Please tell Mom the truth. She deserves to know after 30 years together. Don't let her live in lies until the end of her life. I need space. Cece. I left it on the kitchen table at my parents' house, weighed down with a salt shaker like some dramatic movie. My mom hugged me at the airport like I was just going on a long vacation. She didn't know about the letter yet, or about the kiss, or about any of it. I don't know when she found out. I don't know what he said. I imagine that fight at night sometimes. Her face. His excuses. The way 30 years of shared life collapse in a few sentences. I imagine it, and I hate him and pity him in the same breath. On the plane, as we lifted off, I looked down at Omaha getting smaller and smaller, and for a moment I felt nothing. Just blank. By the time we landed in Porto, the blankness had cracked into something else. Not exactly hope, but not total despair either. Just air. Now I live in a tiny fishing village where no one knows my name unless I tell them. My house is small, whitewashed, with blue shutters that rattle when the wind picks up. The ocean is a 3-minute walk away. The air smells like salt and grilled fish, and sometimes like damp rope from the boats. Most days I wake up, make coffee, sit on the little terrace and stare at the water. Sometimes I cry. Sometimes I don't. I walk along the beach, let the waves numb my feet, watch old fishermen mend their nets and kids chase each other with plastic buckets. I listen to a language I barely understand and feel oddly safe inside my own confusion. No one here knows that my fiancé fell in love with my father. To them, I'm just the foreign girl who rents the little house and always looks like she's thinking about something sad and funny at the same time. I haven't made friends. Not really. A woman at the cafe knows my order. A neighbor nods when we pass. That's enough human interaction for now. I haven't dated. The idea of letting another man into my orbit feels like bringing a match into a gas leak. Some nights when the wind howls and the house creaks, I replay everything. The way Taylor's hand felt on my chest that morning, heart racing. The way my dad said Tay like the word itself was a caress. The look on their faces when they saw me standing in the doorway. I think about how blind I was, how I saw them spending more time together, laughing harder with each other than with anyone else, choosing each other's company over mine at every family gathering, and I thought, this is perfect. My two favorite men in the world love each other, and they did, just not in the way I wrote in my head. If you're waiting for the part where I say I've healed, that I'm stronger, that I've forgiven everyone, and I'm ready to move on and fall in love again. Yeah, that's not this chapter. Right now, I'm in the part of the story where I admit that betrayal doesn't always come with villains. My dad isn't a monster. He's a man who spent 30 years lying to himself and everyone around him because the truth felt impossible. He made cowardly, selfish choices. He hurt my mother. He broke me. He broke himself. Taylor isn't a monster either. He's a man who didn't realize who he was until it was too late, who panicked, who tried to do the right thing until the lie suffocated him. He hurt me. He hurt my family. But I can't pretend I don't understand the terror of waking up one day and realizing the role you built your life on doesn't fit. That's the worst part. Hating them would be easier than understanding them. But I do understand them, and I still can't forgive them. Not yet. Maybe one day, from some future distance, I'll be able to look back and say, that was the day my old life ended, and thank God it did, because now I've built something better. Right now, all I can say is, I didn't just lose a fiancé. I lost my father and the version of my childhood where he was always exactly who he said he was. I lost the illusion that love is simple and straightforward and always kind. I lost the idea that you can spreadsheet your way out of heartbreak. But I also lost the belief that I have to stay in places that lie to me, and that's something. So yeah, that's how my wedding day got crushed. Not by rain, not by a cake disaster, not by cold feet in the normal, I'm scared of commitment way, by a kiss between the two men I trusted most in the world, and the truth they couldn't keep buried anymore. Now I'm here, in a small house under a big sky with a year's worth of savings and no plan. I walk by the ocean, and for the first time in my life, I have no idea what comes next. Weirdly enough, there's something almost honest about that.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and explore our channel for more love, betrayal, and redemption tales.